We're doing what's never been done before. It's a big thing that we're trying to do. And the stakes couldn't be higher. But really, the future of humanity, without any exaggeration, is hanging in the balance. This is serious business, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration, thank you, but it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it's a historic meeting. The program of Refuse Fascism is not like any other program, and it is what will be decisive in the outcome of where things are headed. We have a call, and it's called a call to conscience, a call to act. A call to conscience, a call to act. Trump must go now. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. Now is the time. Now is the time when we must rise up and act to stop the consolidation of Trump MAGA fascism. For the lives of people here and around the world, we must refuse unlawful and inhumane orders. We must fill the streets and town squares in rising numbers, not stopping until we become millions, not relenting until this regime is no longer able to implement its program. It goes on, it is unconscionable and dangerous to act as if fascism cannot happen in America. It is unacceptable to conciliate or accommodate in the name of protecting a few, when each day the mechanisms of fascism are rapidly being hammered into place, locking into a future that imperils us all. Fascism is a radically oppressive and repressive form of rule over the people of this country with devastating impact on the people of the world. The rule of law is shredded. Civil and democratic rights are eliminated. Dissent is piece by piece criminalized. The truth is bludgeoned. Group after group is demonized and targeted along a trajectory that leads to catastrophe. Is that not all happening now?
Yeah.
We refuse to live in a society where the fight for equality of all people, no matter their race, gender, sex, nationality, or immigration status, is mocked, vilified, and even forbidden. We do not accept their future. There can be no conciliation or collaboration between the world we want and the country they want. We have no common cause with MAGA fascism, and there is a way to defeat this. Millions in the streets, in nonviolent protest, not allowing business as usual when that business is cementing fascist rule with the vilest degrading morality shoved down our throats. Many voices and bodies demanding the Trump fascist regime must go. With this, we can and must create a political crisis in which the Trump regime cannot govern and implement their fascist program or even maintain their hold on power. Waiting for the next elections. It's too late. No. We must organize and struggle as we never have before. We must not allow ourselves to be divided and conquered. We must unite all who can be united from many different viewpoints and perspectives, to foster and draw on a collective spirit of courage and righteous fury and willingness to make the necessary sacrifices. But for the greater good of defeating this fascism, we in our millions are a force powerful enough to defeat Trump MAGA fascism and let the world see our determination and courage to hear our righteous demand. The fascist Trump regime must go now in the name of humanity. We refuse to accept a fascist America. This, I think, gives us, in addition to the elevator pitch, which is what we're going to get into, those two slogans and what they actually mean and how they draw not only what needs to be done and speak to the conscience and the better aspirations of more than half the country who are basically decent people, even if they don't always behave that way. But they basically do not want to live in a fascist America. Here I want to talk about and open up the shortest of our messages. The Trump fascist regime must go now. And on signs and on banners and a chance we can just even get simpler. Trump must go now. That says an awful lot. But why does it say must go? We're going to divide both slogans into two parts, and then we're going to talk about the relationship between them. Why does it say must go? If he just stops doing some of the things that we don't like, well, why wouldn't that be enough? This is the first question we're going to get into. And then why now? Why not in 2026, take the Congress from him. 28, take the presidency from him. Why does it have to be now? Why do we say that it can become too late to stop fascism? So the first thing is, let's look into that slogan. It says a lot and it does a lot of work for us. must go, must go. Anything short of that is not going to actually accomplish what needs to happen in this time period. It won't be equivalent. It won't meet the challenge of what we face in a fascist regime. So we need to get into why. But I also want to talk about the second slogan, in the name of humanity. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. Why do we say in the name of humanity? Why don't we say in the name of just the immigrants? Why don't we say just in the name of trans people? Why don't we say just in the name of immigrants? Why don't we say just in the name of the Palestinians? Why don't we say just in the name of black people? Why do we say in the name of humanity? Why don't we say in the interest of American democracy, which of course we're in a struggle for, such as it is? Why do we say in the name of humanity? What is that telling us about the breadth of the movement that we need, that's required? And what does it say about the morality of this movement? Of who are we for? Why do we say in the name of humanity? The second part of that is we refuse to accept a fascist America. Very carefully worded. Okay? It doesn't say we refuse to accept America. Some of us might agree with that. A lot of people around the world might agree with that. But it says, why do we refuse to accept a fascist America? How does that draw a line that millions and millions of people can unite around, and that is consistent with the aspirations and desires of people who see some of the problems that we face rooted in the history of this country, and others who see in that history the prospects of a better future? But it draws a very sharp line. So these are the two questions the two sides of both of those slogans that we want to get into. Because what we all understand together means that when you're out there in Sullivan County, or you're out there in Southern California, or Arizona, or Texas, and then somebody shoves a microphone in your face, assuming it's not a fascist, but even tell them what the truth is, you can just break it down. And around this country, it resonates from many different perspectives. The dividing line here is this regime must go, and it must go now. And we're doing this not just for ourselves, but for the future of humanity. And we are saying we cannot accept and we refuse to cooperate, conciliate, collaborate with a fascist regime. That's what has to be inspiring and infusing millions of people, and it's on all of you to expand our ranks by 10 and 100-fold to be able to bring that to people. Now, before I open this up, I just want to say something. This isn't going to happen without millions of people. So some people have asked, okay, you say it's got to happen soon. About 350 people have registered for these conferences around the country, but that's not 3 million people. So how are we going to organize millions of people in time? We don't have to organize millions of people, okay? We need millions of people to do this. And this is the one thing Trump's going to do for us, and he's already begun to do it. He's going to jolt people into motion. Yes, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen that way. Sometimes a fascist leader jolts people and they're paralyzed for a moment, but then some people act and then people come in. We're trying to organize some people. That's what we're doing. And if the people come into motion without us, that's great. As I said in Washington last week, and the problem that we faced in D.C. wasn't that who called the demonstration first or that there were 3 different demonstrations. The problem is there weren't 300 demonstrations. That's what it means when the country's ungovernable and he can't implement the program. We got a tiny taste of that in D.C. when we were marching up 15th Street, I think, no, 14th Street. And we saw people picketing a building, government workers, and they started cheering, and people in arms started cheering, and the two things messed up. Imagine that happening with 100 demonstrations, different points of view, but everybody determined this has to stop. That's what it looks like when a society goes in turmoil and says, this has to end now. That's what happened in South Korea. That's what happened during the Arab Spring. And in a certain sense, that's what happened in Ukraine a dozen years ago, or wherever it was, when the Orange Revolution took place. This is what we're talking about. But you do need thousands of people who are clear on what we face and what needs to be done. And that's not a small task. We have to grow from the hundreds who come to these conferences to thousands, and we need to do it quickly. We don't want to be in a situation where those millions are in the street and they're being solely motivated by precinct-oriented work for 2026, when fascism is being hammered into place before we get to that election. And then there will be, as Trump said to the CPAC, and I mentioned this on the weekend, vote for me this time and you won't have to vote again. He meant that. We have to do this now.